I thought it would be a good chance to show off my brownie recipe. I put this on my Instagram stories a few weeks ago and I got so many messages asking how I make brownies. So it's not anything that exciting, but it is the best brownie recipe in the world. Every time I make it, people go, oh my god, this is probably the best brownie I've ever eaten. Now, I can't take full credit for this. This recipe came from a chef I knew called Ian, so I literally called them Ian's Brownies. He used to work in restaurants all over London, and this recipe apparently was used in one of the top restaurants, hence why it's so good. Really simple to make, but you do need to do a couple of techniques that you may not usually do when you make brownies. Key for brownies is good quality chocolate. I always use a good quality chocolate, but some people don't think that's important, but essentially that is what you're tasting. So if you don't have good chocolate in there, it's not gonna taste as good, literally. I use Caliber. It's a high quality Belgian chocolate. I use it for everything, for ganache, brownies, flavouring my buttercream, etc. So I do recommend investing in some if you want fantastic brownies. The first stage is melting butter and chocolate together. Now you can do this in the microwave, but you do need to just keep an eye on it. Maybe do it every 30 seconds and then give it a stir so you don't burn the chocolate. I like melting it over a bain-marie, which is a pan of hot water, so I can watch it and mix it and there's no risk of it burning. So the chocolate and butter is in here and I'm going to pop it on the heat. And while that's melting away, I like to prepare my tray. Now I am doing a double recipe to what I've written below, so I am using quite a large tray. So this is a 40 by 30 centimeter tray. If you make it in smaller trays, then they'll be thicker, and if you put it in larger trays, they'll be thinner. This is a really good recipe. It doesn't really matter how thick or thin the brownies are. If they're slightly thicker, you need to cook them a little longer and they'll be a lot gooier in the middle. And if they're thin, they take less time. So it's really easy to adapt. Now to line the tray, I've coated it in butter, and I've cut a piece of baking paper just a little bigger than the tray, and then I've cut the corners, and all I'm going to do is place it on the tray and push it down, and it should line really nicely. Okay, so my tray is lined, and now I'm just going to keep an eye on the chocolate and butter because I don't want it to get too hot either. So every few minutes I'm going to give it a mix to make sure the temperature is even. So the chocolate and butter has completely melted into each other and it's really smooth. Now it is a little warm, so I'm going to just leave it on the side and then get on with the next step. So it's always good to do this first before you do anything else. So in my mixer bowl, I have my eggs. This is probably the only recipe that I don't weigh my eggs. I just don't see the difference when I weigh them and when I don't. If anything, when there is slightly more egg in there, I get more mixture, which is always a good thing. So the caster sugar goes straight in, and then I'm gonna put it straight on the mix. The reason why I don't already have it here sitting is because if caster sugar sits on eggs, especially egg yolk, you get these little white spots on the egg. I think it's something to do with like just the reaction between the egg and the sugar. So it's always good to go in with the caster sugar and then straight onto the mixture. And I've got a whisk attachment and I'm going to put it on full speed. So the egg and sugar has been mixing for about 5 minutes and it's completely volumized. The way to check that it's ready is to check for the ribbon stage. I may have mentioned this before in my other videos, but basically when you lift the mix up, you see a trail of mixture underneath. And that's why it's called ribbon stage, because it looks like a ribbon. We still need it on the mixer though, so I'll put it back. And now we're going to add the chocolate and butter. So it is important that it's not too hot, because if this is too hot and it goes in the eggs, it will start cooking the eggs, which is why I've left it to cool. So I'm going to put this on a slower speed and then slowly add the chocolate and butter. You have a really volumized chocolatey mixture. So you don't need the mixer anymore. So now I'm going to add the flour and cocoa powder, and I am going to sift it in so it mixes in better. And usually the cocoa powder is the ingredient that usually stays in clumps. So I'm going to sift that in. And then on top of that, I'm going to add a pinch of sea salt. I love sea salt in brownies. I don't usually salt my sweet recipes, but this really, really enhances the taste of the chocolate, and it just tastes delicious when you just get a little bit of saltiness amongst the sweetness. Now I'm just going to fold this in. And you don't want to lose that air that we've made from whisking the eggs and sugar together. So the brownie mix has come together really nicely. It looks absolutely divine, really thick, and you can just tell that's going to be a really good brownie. Now is the time that you can customize it. So if you want to put in some orange zest, if you're into chocolate orange, which I am, you can put a couple of orange zests in, or zested oranges. You can put in some nuts. I always put in some extra chocolate chips. So I've got dark and white chocolate, and pour them in. It's a really easily adaptable recipe. And that is it. How easy is that? I'm now going to pour it into the tray. And I'm just going to use a palette knife to make sure that the mixture is spread out evenly. I don't usually do it with a palette knife, but just because this is quite a large brownie tray. Okay, so brownies are ready for the oven. The oven's been preheating at 180 degrees. They need about 20 to 25 minutes, but if you're doing thicker brownies, you may need more. So I always check after 20 minutes anyway. What you're looking for is a crack around the edge, and then the middle to be set, but only just to ensure that you get really gooey brownies. And there we go, they're cooked to perfection. So you've got the cracks around the edge that I was talking about, and it's actually got a really nice shiny film on top, which you also see with brownies. The middle is still a little soft. Ooh, a little bit of the top came off, but doesn't matter. I'm going to leave these to completely cool now, and then once they're cool, I'm going to put them in the fridge for about 2 to 3 hours to make sure that they're cold before I cut them. As tempting as it is to cut them now, it's just really, really messy because it's still gooey inside, which is obviously delicious. But if you want some nice sharp squares, I would recommend putting them in the fridge. So I've had these brownies in the fridge for about 3 hours, so they're completely chilled, and like I said, I find it easier to cut them at this stage. So I'm just going to take it out of the tray and put it onto a board. And then I've got a large knife here. It's not serrated. I find this gives a cleaner cut. And I usually start in the center and portion. And as you can see, the knife is still quite clean even though we've cut through it. If you hadn't chilled it enough, this knife would be full of like the gooey brownie, which is obviously delicious to lick off and eat, but it's a lot easier to cut when it's cold. And I always find portioning brownies quite hard because If you go to a coffee shop and order a brownie, they're usually quite large, but if you're having it as part of the dessert, you only want a small one. So I'm going to do little bite-sized ones. More to go around. So I have cut them quite small. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got 64 here, so plenty of brownies. But again, it depends how large or small you cut them. You can even cut these into mini ones again as part of a trio of dessert, or leave them large. I'm going to plate them up and make them look all pretty. And that's my favorite. I can see some white chocolate in the brownie. It's literally my favorite thing. And even though the brownie is cold, you can still see how gooey it is in the middle. It's really dense and thick. It is really, truly the best brownie recipe. And just for decoration, I've got some spare edible flowers from the cake I did, and some strawberries to give it some colour. So I haven't even put all the brownies on, and there's already a mountain, so plenty of brownies. I am going to eat one because they seriously look so good, and I just noticed this one with 2 white chocolate chips in. That's seriously good brownie. Even though it's cold, it's still gooey. My whole mouth is coated in chocolate right now. This is amazing. And as far as brownie recipes goes, this is a little more technical, but trust me, it's worth it. They are so delicious, so gooey, so chocolatey, and you can make tons really easily. This was just a double batch, and I made 64 brownies, just like that. My party guests are gonna be very happy when I serve these. They also keep really well in the fridge. I've actually kept them in the fridge for up to a week. Because they're so chocolatey, that almost preserves them. So try them out. Be experimental as well. You can swirl in some peanut butter or tahina, or like I said, orange zest, or maybe some peppermint essence even. If you do try it out, as usual, please tag me at George's Cakes. I would love to see them, and I will write all the recipes and quantities below. In the meantime, please like this video and share and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you very soon.